And we're live. Hi, everybody. Hi, Natalie. How are you?
Hello. I'm fabulous. I'm cult free. So any day I'm
Yay.
cult free is a good day.
Every day is a good day not to be in a cult.
That's right. It's
Definitely.
my favorite thing I think that Aaron says.
Totally. So I have the fabulous Natalie Webster here. And welcome to the next episode of Ask an SP. I'm so excited about this. And so, Natalie, if you want to just give a short introduction, I'm sure you don't even need an introduction, but I won't make you like tell your whole story again.
Yeah.
So,
Do you have 4
yeah.
hours?
Right. Been there, done that, right? I watched
Well,
all the 4 hours. Amazing,
wow.
amazing.
Thank you. That's awesome. Yes. I'll give you the cliff notes. I'm Natalie Webster. My channel is called Scientology Life After a Cult, where I talk about my 35 years in Scientology. I was in the Sea organization and how I got out with 35 years in my family. And I'm new to the YouTube world in the SPTV community. And I've just loved getting to, I mean, it's weird. I feel like I've met some of the people who subscribe and follow, but we've not really met in real life, but I love the connection and I'm here for all of it. So I got into Scientology when my mom married a Scientologist when I was 5, grew up in Scientology, spent time in the Sea organization, left the Sea organization, became a everyday parishioner Scientologist, and then left Scientology. I kind of did that teetering down. You know how like when you're on steroids and your doctor's like, you got to stop like this.
Gradually, right? Just
Yeah,
kind of
exactly. That was
exit
my
side stage.
that was how I left Scientology, leaving the Sea organization, and then eventually left to leaving the church. I was all fully out on Scientology, but my husband at the time was more, we're leaving the church, but we still remain Scientologists. I did not feel that way at the time, but yeah, he's totally out now as well.
That's awesome.
Yep. So that's the
Yeah.
highlights.
Yeah. I left with my husband and my 3 kids, and we're still all together. So,
That's
yeah.
fantastic. In
Yeah.
you referred to it as a cult, right? In the
Definitely.
cult that
Yeah.
you were in, is it they also practice, do they call it shunning or well, in Scientology it's disconnection?
It was more like disfellowshipping. It was more like they didn't really have like words for
A
things.
word for it?
They didn't have
Did you say
policies. They have
disfellowshipping?
like you're being dissed. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's kind of what Jehovah's Witnesses call it too. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
disfellowshipping. Well, that's a
Yeah.
new term to me. Disfellowshipping.
Yeah.
Huh. For
Yeah.
us, it's disconnection.
Because you have fellowship and then you have
Yeah.
disfellowship.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they talk into these and thous like forsaking the fellowship of the brethren, like
Yeah.
they used brethren a lot.
That's a big one.
Brethren, yes, brethren.
Brethren.
But we'll talk
Brethren.
about some pretty culty things. I didn't realize that it was a full-blown. I knew it was 10 years out. I knew it was a cult. I knew it was culty. I didn't
Yeah.
really know, but when I watched the Leah Remini in the aftermath, holy shit. 6 minutes in, I think I can say shit. Checked off all the boxes, charismatic leader, isolation, and it was kind of a Sea Org type situation, food deprivation, sleep deprivation, hard
Wow.
labor, indoctrination, all the Asians you don't like,
Yeah.
And so when I saw, the show, I was like, holy, I was in a cult. I was in a actual full blown cult. And that's kind of how I gravitated towards the ex-Scientology community, because there's no ex-Door of Hope community. There were only 50 people in it. And I mean, there's a couple people,
Yeah.
stragglers, but yeah, there's not like a whole big support network, So
That's so great that it happened like that.
yeah, and I can relate so much to so many of your stories. And so I like to talk about all the feels and the digging deep, deep digging. And I started talking to my friend Doug Scott Kramer, who unfortunately passed away a couple months ago now, over a month ago. And I really want to continue the work, and I know he'd want me to.
Oh, yeah.
That we started. And it was basically a deep dive into some of these concepts. And we started with the language. We started to compare the language. And then I was talking to Aaron about it. And the next thing we were going to kind of dive into was, what is Scientology? Is it a religion? Is it a science? Is it all, that? And and the fundamentalism and all that. And then I was thinking, Doug had been OT3,
Mm.
and he had started to tell me some things about that. And he said, I didn't even know I had a reactive mind. I didn't even know I had body Thetans. I didn't even know I was screwed up until they told me as a young teenager or as a kid, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, me too. I didn't know I was going to hell until they told me I was going to hell. So, and that I had demons. So I just thought it was really interesting to talk about because I know there's several differences, but I think there might be some similarities too. So I asked Aaron if he knew any OTs that I could ask for Ask an SP, and he's like, I know a ton of them, and you were at the top of the list. So
Oh, that's very sweet. I'm
yeah,
happy to be your visiting operating Thetan.
wow, what a privilege. That's awesome. That's great. So, okay. I guess I like to start with an easy question. I'm trying to think of
Sure.
an easy question when it has to do with this. This isn't so easy, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I'm going to skip to the middle of something because this has been on my mind.
Yeah,
How
do.
how much? Okay. So, around how much do you think you paid to go clear?
Well, it was different for me. It was probably I was a staff member at the time when I attested to the state of clear.
Mhm.
But I had attested to being a past life clear, which is something in Scientology where they and I've talked about this a little bit. And today, I don't even know what to believe. When people ask me often, I get this question of, well, what do you believe today? And what are your beliefs? I'm like, I don't know. I'm still working on it. I know some
Right.
things that I think, but in Scientology, they believe in past lives, that you've lived previous lives and you're going to live other lives, which is how they get you for the billion years in the Sea
Right.
Organization. They
Right.
want to not just take this lifetime, but many more for a billion years. But there's a concept in Scientology that because Scientology came about in the 1950s and 60s, that you could have lived a life previously and done Scientology and achieved the state of clear. Now, when let's see, I was a staff member at the time and I was doing a course and I needed to do what in Scientology is called kind of like a correction. And so you go and you do Scientology auditing to, if something's kind of buggy or not going well on your course or in your Scientology counseling. So I did that and I said something that turned out to be along the lines of what in Scientology is called the clear cognition, which is a realization they believe that you have when you've achieved the state of clear. I wasn't auditing or doing anything about, to achieve the state of clear.
Right.
There are multiple levels prior. I had done like the purification rundown, which is a sauna thing, and I'd done countless security checks, more things that a staff member would do, but not the actual things on the bridge to total freedom. I did not do the
Right.
steps prior. So then I got
Right.
sent to Los Angeles to do a service that's called the Clear Certainty Rundown, where they I think it's confirm and rehabilitate the state of clear. And as a staff member, I think we got like 50% off. So just getting to the state of clear for me was not super expensive, which if you get to know me, I will pretty much try to find the most inexpensive way to do anything.
So the reason I'm asking is because I've heard several ex-Scientologists say that the body Thetans, and we'll talk about what they are in Scientology and everything, that when you're telepathically auditing them, that are you making them go clear? Like you're helping them go clear, and then you're like, okay, clear, go find a body. How come they're free? Did they get a freeloader debt? Like, why do you have to pay
A
all this
free
money?
ride, right?
Yeah,
It's like having a bunch of squatters living in your house.
that's what I'm saying.
I'm paying for these services and we're donating to Scientology and these body thetans are getting
I
it
just
for free.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I think it's totally like that.
So
I
that was my
don't
first question.
Yeah, about the body thetans.
Yeah, like, why do they get to go free? Like, they should have a freeloader debt.
Yeah, it seems like they should, probably because they can't be held to it. Scientology pretty much there are 2 criteria, it's having a pulse and a wallet, and body Thetans have neither. If they did, they would probably then be, more tied into Scientology. The idea as you get onto those upper levels is that you're auditing to get rid of these body Thetans. Then in Scientology, the belief is that 75 million years ago or so, the intergalactic overlord named Xenu had a real problem with overpopulation. He's like, there's just too much people. And then
Right.
one day he was like, oh my gosh, I have just the greatest idea. I'm going to freeze people. I'm going to send them to Earth. I'm going to drop them in volcanoes. I'm going to blow them up with hydrogen bombs. Yeah, this is a solid plan. And the Scientology story, this somewhat origin story, is that that's what happened.
Right.
And when they were exploded, the Thetans in Scientology, a Thetan is the soul, or who Scientologists believe that we are, that we have a body, but we are a spirit or a soul, that they then, come out and then they attach to humans, and these body Thetans are the cause of our ills. But you do not find out about these things in Scientology. Most Scientologists do not know about Xenu or body Thetans
Right.
because it's not until those upper levels.
Now, were you supposedly a body Thetan, or you're a good Thetan? Where
I'm a
did
good
you come from?
Thetan.
How did
Yeah,
you end up
yeah.
here?
I'm a
You
regular
just
I'm a regular Thetan. I'm a
okay,
run
so you're
of the
not a
mill Thetan.
so you were never in the volcano.
Not that I'm aware of. Apparently,
Okay.
the body Thetans were in the volcano. So the individual Thetans were, I guess, humans or people with human bodies. L. Ron Hubbard also talks about in different lectures and books the idea of the whole track, which is like the entirety of your past. And he
Mm.
talks a lot about, he calls it space opera, like all of these incidents that have happened to people on the whole track. Um,
Sounds like something a science fiction writer might
I
come up
was
with.
exactly reading, yeah, I saw that, and I'm like, "Yep, completely, completely," which is probably why I was
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, why not?" Because I found out later because you don't get a lot of opportunity to read other books. The first science fiction I was introduced to was Battlefield Earth and Mission Earth by L. Ron Hubbard. That's all I knew for sci-fi, and then later on when I got out of the Sea Organization, and then I realized like, wow, I actually do like science fiction, and still to this day.
Right.
So it makes sense that a lot of what L. Ron Hubbard would have written would have been along those lines. But as a Scientologist, you're told that Scientology is a new religion. So these concepts or these ideas of having lived on other planets, and these are things that Scientologists are introduced to, not Xenu and body Thetans, but L. Ron Hubbard talks about in multiple different lectures and books about space travel and where we've lived in wars that we fought. He refers to these, I think he speaks about the loyal officers outside of the confidential levels. I'm not 100% positive, but
Wow.
it's
That's
wacky.
wild.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
that's
but it's
wild.
it's wacky and it's not. And it's not even my beef with Scientology is not that kind of stuff. Believe what
The
you want.
beliefs. Right. The
Yeah,
beliefs.
believe what
Yeah.
you want. I don't care.
Right. Right.
But
So if you were okay, so when you opened the suitcase, right? And that was chained to you, and
yes.
you read L.
Well,
Ron Hubbard's writing.
yes, but first when you first get the material, you're in a course room where Aaron used to work at the Advanced Organization of Los Angeles. That's where I did it. And you go and you get the book that's got the it's like this binder, if you will, and it's plugged into something. This is for security purposes. So you unplug it and you only have a certain amount of time to get to your table and plug it back in. And if you don't, the
Wow.
whole building will shut down. It's a security issue. I never saw that happen, which kind of bums me out, but Aaron shared about it
Wow.
happening a couple of times. You would get in huge trouble for that. So I go and you get it and you plug it in. And when you get to that point on the course, because you're in the course room, it's a course that you're doing, and there are different
Mhm.
items, different check sheet items. And when you're close to the point where you're going to read the material, people make such a big deal out of it
Right.
that
Yeah.
the course room supervisor will pay a little bit more attention to you because they want to make sure that you don't hear this and go, oh yeah, I'm out.
Right. Yeah. Wow.
But
That's
when you
insane.
take it and you go to do the actual auditing, that is when it's put in a briefcase that is strapped to you.
Do they tell you they're gonna lock the door and you agree to that? You sign something? Because isn't that like kidnapping when they lock the door?
Well, when you're in an auditing session, but you're always, so when you're in an auditing session with someone else, there's two of you, and as the person getting the auditing, you're always facing the door. So your auditor, the person on the other side, is between you and the door, should you
Yeah.
decide to get up and make a run for it.
Wow.
But most people in Scientology, outside of the interrogations, they're willingly there and there for betterment. So they're not trying to, get out of the room or anything
Right.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
The interrogations and some type of auditing can be a little more rough. During an auditing session, I was never in a situation where I felt like I needed to leave. But outside of that auditing session, it was almost a constant.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So when you opened it up and started reading about the body Thetans, at that point, how long you'd been in Scientology for quite some time.
Oh yeah, my
And
my
so
my whole
it
life.
probably wasn't was it a total shock to you? Were you mad? Or
Um,
do you like Leah said that Leah Remini was just like, "What the fuck is this?" Looked at her mother. Like, how did you take the news?
it wasn't that. It wasn't, to me, it wasn't the strangest thing that I'd heard in Scientology or experienced up until that point. I'd already been in the Sea organization, and it was more trying to understand it. I had a lot of questions that were not answered in the materials themselves, and they won't tell you unless it's that you're constantly referred to your materials. So if you have a question on something and I asked the course supervisor, like, hey, so what happens to the body thetans?
Right.
They say, "What do your materials state?" Well, my
Right. You can't ask
materials
questions.
don't say shit about it, which is why I'm asking you. But they don't explain it. It's against the rules. So they
Right.
would maybe like add, I remember them showing me some kind of, oh, I wish I could remember what it was. A modern day, I don't know if it was an article or a newspaper clipping that made reference to something to do with something that happened 75 million years ago. But the gist is they were trying to say that that gave it some validation, that gave it some legitimacy on there
Yeah.
about that. So it wasn't so bizarre to me when I read that. I was mildly disappointed because I thought it would be something more. And maybe that's because I read some of his science fiction stuff as well. And I didn't have any other introduction. Like, I didn't know a lot about other religions at the time either,
Right.
but I knew that they had different beliefs. And sometimes, if you had never heard of them before, you would think that maybe it might be a little, it might be a little odd. And that's what they tell you if you do question it as being weird, is that, well, Christianity's been around for a long
Right.
time.
It
There's
is
been more
weird too. It
exposure.
is. Right. That's true. That's true. Yeah. Like when we asked, where rainbows came from, had nothing to do with science or refracted light or anything like that. It was Noah and the ark and the flood, and because God did it. It was a promise from God. God said it. I believe it. That's the end of it.
And
And
that was it.
that was
Yeah.
it. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
it. That's it.
It's kind of like that. You're indoctrinated to accept
Yeah.
everything that L. Ron
Yep.
Hubbard says.
Absolutely. Yeah.
On
So,
everything, including
so
how to wash a car.
and windows with newspaper. Yeah.
Exactly.
So when you do this, when you learn about it and then you have to audit yourself
Yes.
on so you're sitting in a course room by yourself with
You're
the
well,
cans?
when you're learning how to do this, you're in the course room, but after that, you leave and you go to wherever you're staying. So I was from out of town. So I rented like a room in an apartment. They had all these apartments that were rented to Scientologists. It was way before short-term rentals. Today they'd be like VRBOs or Airbnbs.
Right, right.
Back then they didn't have those, but there were these Scientologists, this couple who rented they took like one apartment with say 3 bedrooms, and then they would rent each bedroom, but you would have your own, and there'd be a safe in there because you had to lock up wait, was there a safe? There wasn't a safe. No. Here's what happened. You go into, so I would go to the Advanced Organization of Los Angeles, which are the blue buildings. It's where
Mhm.
Julian Schwartz works, right on L. Ron Hubbard Way. You go in with your briefcase all ready to be strapped to you, and they give you your what you need to do your auditing session, including your own folder that you're going to put your session notes in. Put it in the briefcase, that gets strapped to you, and you go. If you live locally, you go home, I would
Right.
assume. But I wasn't. I lived in Minnesota, and so what I went is, and I went ahead and gosh, what was it? A couple blocks, I think. So I would just walk back and forth. And you go and you have your room, and each room is locked because there are very specific security measures that you have to follow, including having the briefcase strapped to you, which just calls attention to it.
Right.
That's so on brand for Scientology to just like, it's security. We don't want people to know, but let's
But
strap it to people
so
because
they can
that's
mug
not
you.
weird.
You're
Yeah.
right.
Somebody walks up to you and it's gonna grab it and you're
So
like strapped to it.
so you
Could
go
be
back to the Airbnb or the
Yep, you go
hotel or
back to where you
whatever,
are.
and you're in a room,
Yep,
and you
you're in a
got it.
room, a locked
You've got
room.
oh, you lock your hotel room.
Yep, you if you're in a hotel room, a bedroom,
You're
whatever you're
alone.
doing, the door
Okay.
needs to be locked in case
Okay.
the body Thetans decide to make a run for it.
So okay, so you're in the room, and then you've got the e-meter. You have an e-meter you're using, right?
Yes, so you have an
And
e-meter.
and you're holding both cans with one hand.
Yes, when you're auditing on the upper levels of Scientology, you're doing what they call solo. It's on your own. So there's this plastic thing where you put the cans on each side so they go together,
I know.
and then you hold that in one hand,
Okay.
and then you take your session notes with the other hand and also operate the e-meter itself. I'm left-handed, so I had a left-handed meter. Yes, because you
Yeah.
get one that's right-handed or left-handed.
Really
Yeah, I
interesting.
forgot about that till just now.
Interesting.
Because if you're right-handed, you would hold the cans in your left hand, so you could write with your right hand and adjust the dial on the e-meter. But I was left-handed, or I am
Okay.
left-handed, so it was always the other way for me. And you have
Okay.
to have 2 e-meters. This is the other scam thing.
Really?
These e-meters are like 3,500
One for
bucks.
you and one for the body thing?
Exactly. You always had to have a backup meter in case God, this is such BS now that I think about it. I haven't even gotten pissed off about this point. I
Sorry,
have
I'm
not
sorry.
thought about this.
I told you deep dive. I'm gonna bring it
Deep
out. Bring
dive.
it out.
I have not thought about this specific thing about having to have 2 e-meters. Now, many people, what they do, especially if you're a couple, you would have 2 e-meters and then you would just use that. But because I'm left-handed and not many people are left-handed, I had to buy 2 left-handed
And you're away from
e-meters.
home in a hotel or something,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Yeah,
Oh,
where I was staying.
okay.
So, but it just pisses me off that I had to buy 2 of them being left-handed. So then you go in and you do your Scientology auditing, and then you pack everything up when you're done for the day. And then if you have to go to the bathroom and you don't have a bathroom in your room, you have to lock the door. Like you can't stay somewhere where you can't lock the door if you're not in that room. And you have to lock up all of your materials in the briefcase. There's a whole security protocol. And if you
Wow.
don't follow the security protocol, then you get in trouble.
Wow. And you're paying to be oppressed with this. You can't even go to the fucking bathroom.
Yeah, you can
That's a
go to the bathroom, but you
lot.
gotta lock your shit up.
Wow. Okay. So what's the process like? So you have one emitter at a time though, right?
Yeah, you only have one e-meter set up. The other one's in the
Mhm.
corner. You need to charge the e-meter. So I guess if you were in the middle of a session and the charge ran out, what you're told is because like it's a backup, right? So you don't get stranded and leave a body Thetan upset or something. You just need to be prepared. But now I'm realizing it was just a scam to make us buy 2 of them. I never had to
Right.
use the backup. But why
Right.
couldn't you just take a break then and handle whatever's going on with your meter? It's just hitting me now that was an effing scam to make us buy 2 of them.
Yeah, this was my next question. Thank you, SPTV fans. Can you explain what you did ask at the e-meter? So
So
what did that look,
what
how
does
did
that
that
look like?
go? Yeah.
So it's called solo auditing. So you're holding
Mhm.
on to the cans in one hand, and then you usually have like it's called like a bulletin in Scientology. It's like red printing on white, which tells you what questions to ask yourself or to locate a body Thetan. So on these upper levels, let's see if I can remember. Got to go back in the cult mind. Got to go back.
Well, you could just paraphrase it. I don't want to
I'll
traumatize
paraphrase.
you.
Yeah,
I don't want to
exactly.
traumatize you.
You don't want to like re-stimulate or stir up
I know.
anybody else's body Thetans. So you go along and you're basically locating body thetans if in different parts of your body. Mainly, you're looking for areas of pain or discomfort. So I must have a hell of a lot of body thetans in my back these days because my back is killing me. My lower back. So it must be filled with body thetans by what Scientology would say. So you locate
A
them.
legion of demons. A
A
legion of
legion. Ooh,
yeah.
demons sound way scarier than
Yeah.
body thetans.
Well, Thetan does rhyme with Satan, just
That's
saying.
right. That's right. So you basically start out locating a body thetan, and then you have to determine there's a few questions that you'll ask to determine if it's like a group of them or is it like a single one off to the side, like a stray buffalo that you can easily go after. And the e-meter has a dial on it. And you are trained in Scientology to interpret the reaction of the needle on the dial. So the needle makes, I forget how many movements. It's over 20, I think, but it's been a long time. I forget.
So are you talking to okay, so you got a backache and you're like, "Oh, that must be a Thetan." So you're asking these questions on this
Yeah.
list and then you're like, "Oh, it's 3 of them or it's a group of them."
Yeah.
So you're like, "Hey guys, like how do we talk to them?"
So you do it, you just do it, you don't do it out loud. You do it, you're
Oh,
communicating
no.
telepathically. So you use the e-meter. So you're putting your attention on different parts of your body, and then you locate one. Then there's specific questions that you ask, like, are you a this? Are you a that? While you're watching the e-meter. And when the needle on the dial makes a specific type of movement, that's kind of like your yes. And then after that, there's a series of steps that you do to free the body thetan, which has
Okay.
to do running them through an incident. And the incident is the same for all of them. Let's see if I can remember. I don't remember. It's something about a cherubs and in a um what are they those things
Body moochers.
body pictures, yeah.
That's great.
Got all these body things hanging out like they paying rent and they're not.
Freeloaders.
Total freeloaders. Chariot, in a chariot, and then there's this loud snap, I think it was. And so you read this incident, it makes no sense. It didn't make sense to me then.
We all go through the
You
chariot?
run them all through the
Okay.
same incident of seeing, apparently this had to do with part of how they were what in Scientology is called implanted, given ideas about for example, L. Ron Hubbard says like that Christianity and the belief in Jesus is an implant. That's
Yeah.
something that was fed to us to believe as brainwashing, which how ironic that this man like brainwashed people all the time
And
and
he
then was
stole from the
telling them,
Bible. He
yeah,
stole from the Bible big time. Like many are called, few are chosen. Bible.
is
I
that in the
can
Bible?
Oh yeah, there's so many of them. We could do another whole stream on that. I actually have a Bible buzzer that Kelly made for me.
I
Where
love
is it?
that.
So every time he steals from the Bible, we hit and then every time we talk about something that is really clownish about that. And then usually LRH is the double clown. Anyways, so that happened.
That's
So
hilarious.
so yeah. Oh wow. Okay, so you're doing this telepathically, and it's not that far fetched from really what we used to do in my cult. It
Really?
was yeah, because oftentimes it was one of the elders or our minister. So some people were asking in the chat. I'll just give you a real quick so that
Yeah.
I don't get off in left field here. But my cult was Door of Hope. It was a splinter group. It was an offshoot of Pentecostal fundamental Christianity, but it was also mixed in with IBLP, which was who the Duggars are. The
Oh yeah. Yeah.
yeah, IBLP was their is their the cult I think they still follow Bill Gothard. So I call it a petri dish religion. So it was like a little bit of charismatic, like kind of demon stuff with
Yeah.
demonology, with the prophetic, like speaking in tongues and fake heal. Well, they don't say it was fake healings and all that, but with the patriarchy and the authoritarianism, and that's kind of where the Sea Org type stuff came in. And everybody kind of marching in step in the submission. They had something called the umbrella of authority. So oftentimes it was the minister or the elder would tell you what was wrong with you, and they would tell you have a demon or you have legion of demons. I had a legion of them. Turns
Of
out
course you did.
my daughter, 7 years old, had a demon of Jezebel. 7
Is
years old.
is Jezebel a specific demon?
Jezebel was a character in the Bible. Often they were named after villains in the Bible, the
Mhm.
demons. And she was loose woman with painted eyes, 7 years old. Yeah. My daughter supposedly had a demon of a
A
loose
whore?
woman. Yeah, exactly. In the New Testament, Jezebel's called the whore of Babylon. Yes.
Oh,
Yes. So I
called it.
definitely, yeah, I definitely had a whore of Babylon. I had Leviathan, which was some giant sea creature. I had my favorite one was the spirit of Achan, which was this guy who hid idols under his tent. And supposedly I had idols. My kids were idols. Everything was idols. I did everything I could to please this woman. I mean, even though she was very patriarchal, she was a woman, but she said she was the only, she was chosen of God. So
Yeah,
she was an exception. So,
yeah.
I mean, I dyed my hair dark brown.
Why the dark brown? What did that have to do with it?
Because she just thought that because my hair, she didn't tell me to dye my hair, but it was like I stood out too much,
Mm.
I wore baggy sweatshirts, and we fasted all the time. So I was losing weight, losing weight, losing weight. I think that's why I like food so much now. But it was like anything that was individual. She just didn't like the individualism.
Of
So I
course
think
not.
a way to, and I don't know if this was your experience at all, but a way to basically keep my mind busy and my body busy was like doing the work, the starvation, but the constantly looking within myself, looking for demons, like
Yeah,
body thetans or
yeah,
gnats,
yeah,
or what are those called? Lice. What are those? Yeah, lice, right? Or whatever. I don't know. Body, the things that stuck to your body, right? So I'm picking lice off me. I was constantly wondering, like, we didn't have the reactive mind. We had what was called the sin nature.
Ooh.
And we had the sin nature. So it could be your sin nature because Adam ate the apple that Eve gave him from the serpent, blah blah blah, in the Garden of Eden, right? And everybody's born bad. So I had a sin nature that was talking to me. I had the devil talking to me. I had demons talking to me. I had God talking to me. I had, I don't know, my new person that is supposed to be talking to me. So
And
I
the
was
main
literally going
person is the one
insane.
who would tell you this. So it
Yes.
it wasn't like you had a realization that, "Oh my gosh, I've got this demon, that demon." It's one person had the power to say, "Marilyn, you have blah, blah, blah demon."
She would, but she would also say, "Seek the Lord." So I'd have to go in this room, lay on the floor on, like, it's called prostrate, like when you lay on your face, and you have to seek God. So you're like crying to God, "I'm such a sinner," because she told you were terrible, right?
Yeah,
And then it was like this. It wasn't like written down. Like it was sort of, wasn't even really taken from the Bible except the names of the demons.
yeah,
But so we didn't have like a process. It was more like a guidelines. So she'd say, read the Bible, and she'd say, read Isaiah something or other. So I'd read that, and there would be something about like the dung heap or something. And that was a big threat that we were going to end up on the shit pile if I didn't obey. So I would read these things, and something would come up like Achan. And so it was this thing where you were talking to them. Sometimes it was audible, sometimes it wasn't, but it was kind of a process of basically you're driving yourself insane because you're
yeah,
talking
yeah,
to, you don't know what you're talking to, and you're like, sometimes like I said, it was audible, but then it was also, they didn't believe in telepathic. They didn't never use that word because that's more like occult type,
sure.
whatever, ESP, it's more like in your spirit. So it was so bizarre because I was literally like always looking within to see what was wrong with me. And I would cry all the time. It would make me hate myself because I was so evil. And
Yeah,
so, and I would just be like, you sit there and you start ticking like you're speaking in tongues under your breath. So you just be, and then something would pop into your mind, and then you would like, I laugh about it now, but it was so real. I was fucking
yeah,
scared. I was scared of it. And I was just like, oh my God, there's, a spirit of Jezebel. And it'd be like, Jezebel, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. Be gone in the name of Jesus. I plead the blood of Jesus over my mind. And I'm washed in the blood of the Lamb. All this blood talk, all this death talk.
so that's what you had to say. So your process involved very specific wording. So it also
Yes.
involved a procedure to
Yes.
get rid of the demon. And was it the same procedure each time for each
No,
demon?
So yeah, kind of, because you had to rebuke them in the name of Jesus. You had to plead the blood of Jesus over your mind, and then
What
you
does
had,
that
and then
mean to plead the blood of Jesus over your mind?
I don't fucking know.
Plead the
Okay,
blood of
so
Jesus.
yeah, it's this thing where Jesus came to, and I'm not picking on Christianity. I'm sure there's many
Mhm.
Christians in this chat and that might watch the replay. This is specifically twisting the Bible and turning it into a way to control and oppress people, you know. So in Christianity, they believe that Jesus, came to earth as God. There's a Trinity. There's Father, Son, Holy
Yeah.
Spirit. Jesus came to earth, and he died in place of all the sinners, which were all born a sinner, and his blood washes your sins away. And
Yeah,
it's
I've heard that.
not real blood, but there are certain denominations of Christianity that do believe that, like, when you take communion, the Eucharist or communion, that it does actually become the body and the blood of Jesus. So you're partaking in his sacrifice. There's a lot of human sacrifice in the Bible.
Ooh.
Yes, a lot.
See, that's what I'm
So
saying, and people call the whole Xenu thing and think that's weird. And I'm
yeah,
not saying that for someone who I
yeah,
didn't grow up with that, I didn't know. I knew the basics of Christianity, but
yeah,
not a lot of the beliefs like that, even though what you did was kind of an offshoot. So
yeah.
you're saying your cult, like what the Duggars do, was an offshoot of that.
Right. I don't know if that the Duggars got into as much as the mystical stuff that we did, because we also took Pentecostal, like very mystical, charismatic Pentecostal, which was like the revival tent preachers with the healings and the slay. They
Yeah.
slay you in the spirit. And I mean, I could go on for 4 hours on this.
Did they
So
did are there snakes? Because on television I've seen where there's
everybody
been
has that.
snakes.
Everybody has that. Okay, I'm gonna get lots of comments afterwards, but I've never seen. I've lived in New England all my life. I've only seen 3 snakes in my life, and they were little tiny garter snakes. So I like to say that thank God that they don't, or thank Xenu goodness,
Yeah.
whatever, that they don't like to live up here. I guess there are some in the hills, but
Yeah.
our church did not use snakes. No.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting the wording that they use because I do understand and get the concept that Jesus died for our sins and therefore that washes away that sin, that sacrifice, God
Mm,
sacrificing his only son washes away those sins,
yeah,
which is way cheaper than doing Scientology auditing. But
that is
you're
true.
right, the similarities are really interesting. Both of them involve doing the upper levels in Scientology involves the getting rid of
Yeah,
these thetans or these entities, and you do this through multiple levels. And it sounds like with yours, it's very similar. The difference is, though, in your cult, you're told that you have this demon, this demon, this
yeah,
demon. And in Scientology, that is something that you figured out during your auditing session.
right.
And,
And we did do that too, because I was just like, I just want to get this right so that I don't have any more demons. But
yeah,
then
yeah, I wouldn't
when
want the
you
demons either.
right, but if you give the devil a foothold, the demons will come back, and they'll come back with 7 of their friends.
How do you give the devil a foothold?
Oh, jeez.
Does that mean like you're
Right.
doing in Scientology, it would be like you're doing something out ethics, like doing
Yes,
strip
yes,
fitness, like what I did and got in trouble for.
yes, exactly, like,
I gave the devil a foothold.
yes.
Probably why now I'm a
You
suppressive
open the door. You
person.
open the door. You open the door,
Strip
and they
fitness was my gateway drug to sin.
I love it. Or even having a thought against, like, L. Ron Hubbard,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
having a thought against Marlene Sweeney, you know?
Ooh,
So it was constantly you're policing yourself. I was just like always just feeling like I was never going to measure up. I was always going to hell, and I was so scared. And I mean, I didn't get out of the cult till I was 36. I was raised in a culty atmosphere. Joined it when I was 20, and it was 16 years in there.
wow.
So it was just, day by day, just constantly always ripping yourself down. She's always talking about going the way of the cross, like as if Jesus didn't already do it. You had to,
Yeah,
you had to suffer. It was this exalting suffering and all this, like you had
yeah.
to suffer for the cause, you had to suffer for Jesus' sake. So as far as yeah, you were like trying to not have bad thoughts. You were trying to do the right thing. You didn't know what the right thing was. It was just constantly beating yourself over the head and trying to do the right thing. And she would change it too. It wasn't like LRH's policies.
Yeah.
She just decided one day that, this is the way we're going to do it now, or this is the focus we're going to have,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you just were always off. Like when thought I was doing good, she'd call me before sort of like a, what do you call it? Like a COMEV.
Yeah.
It was a tribunal, and you're already guilty.
God.
And they would lay hands on you.
She sounds
And
like a
they
real
would,
bitch.
she's a fucking bitch. She lives 5 miles up the road and she's dying of cancer.
Oh.
But I'm still speaking out.
So is there someone who's going to take over after she's gone?
That's what I'm worried about. And that's why I'm speaking. That's why I'm sitting right here speaking
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah. Well, good for you. That's horrific.
Yeah. And so she was always threatening. I got some more overlays. I'm sorry. I'm really goofy. Just bear with me. She always called me.
I love that.
And then we have a little drinking game.
Marley's
Everybody drink.
because she earned it. Everybody drink.
Kelly made these for we have too much fun. And then my friend Doug, he partook in some other stuff. But people will just eat, like, you can partake in anything, Krispy Kreme donut, whatever.
I love it.
Oh, where's the other one?
Because she earned it.
Yeah.
Here I have my Pellegrino.
There we go. And then Doug said the Xenu Marlene. So anytime we said Xenu, or Marlene, everybody partake, and he had a little other partaking going on. But we talk about a lot of trauma, so so we just have these silly little things, because I cry a lot too. I instead of buying me a clean coffee, I buy me a Kleenex, because we do talk about
it happens.
But I like to lighten it up.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. It's a heavy topic, and I think it's good to do that. And when someone's to the point where you can, I know for me that was a big turning point. We weren't allowed to joke about Scientology when in Scientology. That was definitely a no-no. And you're not allowed to discuss certain things. So this whole idea of Xenu and body Thetans, we weren't allowed to discuss amongst ourselves. So you couldn't get together even with another Scientologist who was doing that level. Or my mom, she was a good example. My mom was at the higher levels. She was on operating Thetan level 7. When I was doing 3, was she on 7? Close to it. She had already done it. And we could not talk about it, could not discuss it. But, I've been thinking about something the last few days. My mom used to say to me, so when you do operating Thetan level 3, you think that when you're done, oh, thank goodness, I got rid of all these body Thetans. I'm so happy. Yay, yay, yay. Hip, hip, hooray.
But wait. There's more.
There's more. And there's more. And there's more. And there's more. I did not go beyond operating Thetan level 4, which I saw someone ask in the chat, what is 4? 4 is you're addressing drugs, actually. But I think as they relate to the body Thetans, and I think 4 was done with an auditor, actually. That's not one that was done solo, but I remember it having to do something with drugs and body Thetans. So they were running a process, and Scientology a process, a series of questions having to do with that. So you're like, oh, great. Now I got more. And apparently they were into drugs. Like, what's the deal? But my mom would say to me, she'd say, like, when I was done, and I really didn't have a lot of interest in continuing and doing operating Thetan level 5. One, because it was ridiculously expensive. And secondly, because it just seemed like, well, what else is there to do then? And my mom would say to me, she's like, there's more to do. I'm like, yeah, I know there's more to do. There's the different levels of the bridge. I didn't know what she was saying until I left Scientology and found out the upper levels were even more about body Thetans. My mom was basically, as a full-blown Scientologist, trying to tell me, oh, there's more body Thetans. But she couldn't. So all she would say to me is, Nat, there's more to be done. And I'd be like, yeah, bitch, I know, the rest of the bridge to total freedom. And because she couldn't say, but I've been kind of laughing the last few days. I don't know why. In talking about Scientology and my experience pretty much every day now, there's a lot more memories and things that are coming back. And that was something that I just laughed about to myself the other day, going, oh my gosh, that's what she meant. She would always say that. There's more to be done. There's more that you need to do. But she would say it in such a dramatic way that my mom could be dramatic at times. So I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Then I leave and I'm like, oh my gosh, she would have gotten in trouble for saying that to me with the intention of trying to communicate that
And they would have
there's
found
more.
out that she said
Yeah.
it, right? Because they audit you and they
Yeah.
oh my god, sick. I have a question. What was a question that you asked the Thetan? Did you have to pay for each Thetan that you located? It's a good
You
question.
know what? We should have gotten credit for locating and freeing these Thetans. The fact that we had to pay for it, you pay
Right.
for the service. So in Scientology, when you're doing auditing with another auditor, that auditing is sold to you in increments of 12 and a half hours, 12 and a half hours at a time. It's called an intensive. I heard Nexium does that too, that they use intensives, that they stole that from Scientology.
Oh yeah.
So
Yep.
you do these 12 and a half hour intensives, but when you're auditing yourself, it's a flat rate. Unless you start having troubles and you need to bring in another auditor, then you have to pay for that.
Right. You got to pay for the extra auditor. Is that level 5?
Well, at any point, you could be
Oh
auditing
really?
yourself on, operating Thetan level 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
But if you get into trouble, there's something that you can't sort out, or it's not doing well, or you get sick, then you need to go in for what's called a correction. And that involves another auditor. And that's something you pay additionally for, but you do pay for each level. But to me, it seems like getting rid of the body Thetan should have been like when you collect glass bottles for recycling money. Like there should be like a
Right.
reward. Every body Thetan I save, I feel like I should have gotten $1,000. If they are beings and
Mhm.
Thetans, just like we are, then why weren't we being paid? Where was my cut,
Right.
Scientology?
Right.
I paid you. Why you didn't pay me? I'm over here doing all the work, freeing the
Right.
beings,
Now,
clearing the planet. I didn't get jack. I had to pay for that.
so so they're like asleep, right? They're unconscious beings, so they don't talk
Some of
back?
them.
So you
Uh,
talk to them. Do they talk back?
yes, but not in okay, and this again, please everybody keep in mind. I'm going to share this from the point of view I had at the time. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that I buy
Right.
it today
Right. Yeah,
or I know
exactly.
what to think about this.
Mhm.
You would do it telepathically using the e-meter as a tool on your answers because a certain way the needle would move would indicate that maybe there was some type of upset and you had to address that with the body Satan. So you would, but it was really more you're asking them specific questions like, are you, this type of body Satan, this type
Right.
of body Satan? And then you're showing them, you're using there's a lot of training you do to do this level on using your intention. So for example,
Oh,
you do a drill where you put your intention in certain spots. I think it also involved an ashtray. A lot of Scientology training involved yelling at ashtrays, but it's really was practicing putting your intention into a very specific point. So you train
yeah,
to do that
gotcha.
before you actually learn about body things.
So
Then you
you're
realize,
willing it, right? You're just
yeah,
like, yeah,
you're
okay.
showing
Now,
it, you're communicating. You
no.
know what? It's no different when that, for those of you who are parents and you have your child, but you're in public, but you
You're
need
like,
to communicate
yeah,
them that you are about to kick their butt if they don't knock off whatever that is.
yeah,
You use intention and they
yeah,
feel it. And that kid will go
yeah,
because they
yeah,
feel it. So it's no different too
yeah,
with if you're admiring somebody from across the room and they can feel that coming at
the
them
energy,
and
right.
the energy and it gets your
Yeah,
attention. If
yeah,
you walk into a room where people have been fighting, you can feel the energy.
yeah,
So I do believe that that is something that resonates with me as far as how we all
yeah.
communicate.
So
And
were they bad? Like, were you like, "Oh, I hate them," because, like, with me, it was like, okay, there's this thing called resistance, like, resist the devil, and the devil could be another demon, right?
yeah,
One of their 7 friends or whatever that came back in because you gave him a foothold. So you'd be like, I resist you, I rebuke you, blah, 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 blah." So you're, like, against them, right? Now you're actually helping the body Thetans, right? Because 'Cause you're
yeah,
clearing them, and you're
yeah,
like, "Go ahead, go find another body." So
yeah, exactly.
so
Just like
you
be
weren't, like,
free.
afraid of them, you
No,
didn't hate them, you didn't so did
no,
it
they've
screw
been through a
did you feel
lot.
like it?
If you believe the origin story, right?
Right.
They were
So,
blown
like
up in volcanoes and they've just been like going around and some of them are unconscious. That's why they say though you couldn't locate certain ones when you do operating level 3. You couldn't locate them till you were higher up on the bridge to total freedom because they were sleeping or they were unconscious and they start to wake up. But some of them, it was like, no, they were easier to locate than others. I felt like my body thetans were fairly cooperative. I didn't run into a bunch of trouble
because
because
that would
some
have been
people,
more expensive
oh
if
yeah.
they were
And again,
yes.
this girl's frugal. So these body Thetans were going to like, no, 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 you're going to be on it and you're going to leave because mama's not going to pay more for this.
Now, can they come back?
I wondered about that. Now, it's the idea, my takeaway was that no, because once they're awake and free, they have the power to do what they want. So if they want to just roam around the planet, they can. If they want to go and in Scientology, it's called picking up another body when you're
Right,
born again
right.
into another body, that they can do that as well. The hope and idea being that they're, going to pick up a body and find Scientology because you help to free them.
All right, so they can decide to go to another planet or
Yeah, why
whatever.
not?
They can decide to do whatever they want. Okay, so because they're free now, because you cleared them, because they were. So these are the guys that came over in the DC-8s.
Yeah.
That are stuck to your body. Okay,
Yes.
so how did you get here? Did you decide to come to this planet?
Oh,
You're the good Thetan.
yeah, I'm the good Thetan or the original Thetan, the main Thetan, right? The one
OG.
in the jar, the OG. You're your own OG Thetan.
And we're talking as if this is true, but we know it's not true, and we know it. Yeah,
Yes.
I just want to understand it to draw the comparisons, and also to understand that like this is what we believe. Like I believed very, crazy stuff too, and you were brought up in it, right? You were.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what you knew. That's what you
Yeah.
knew is your
That's what you
reality.
knew. Although you don't know about body Thetans and Xenu early on, you are introduced to concepts of
Right.
past lives, of space travel, of experiences on other planets. Now, L. Ron Hubbard, that I recall, doesn't completely explain how we got here, but you'd go and address previous lifetimes, and if some of them involved, space or other planets, then you're never told that that didn't happen in Scientology, because you're also not, if you're telling your auditor there that you think that, you were Jesus in a past life,
Right.
your auditor's not going to tell you, no, man, no, there's already been a couple, a couple people who thought they were Jesus. And there were. It was this whole thing with past lives where I think that there's this idea that I think people would attach to an idea that they were somebody of importance or somebody who was famous. And the funny thing is, I was like, that was never my experience. It was always like, yep, another slacker. Yep, another slacker. There's a theme. She's just
I remember.
phoning it in, just getting through, working a farm somewhere. Just I was nobody apparently in a previous life.
Wow. You're like, I just want to get through this. Come on.
No, that was my whole thing. I just wanted
Yeah.
to get through it. And
Mhm.
honestly, on those higher levels, it's really in hindsight and looking back on it at what I thought I gained, it was more the relief of being done.
Yeah.
Because basically, and I think this is something that you could probably relate to, L. Ron Hubbard was telling us, this is what's wrong with you. You have these body
Yeah.
thetans and you have a reactive mind. Oh, I
Right.
didn't know that. I mean, we all feel there's things about ourselves or things we run into that are challenging that we would like to improve on or get rid of or not have as a personality trait. But
Right.
it doesn't mean it's having somebody else come in and tell you, well, it's because you have these
Right.
body
Yeah.
thetans or you have these demons.
Yeah, and I felt so relieved when, I thought that was God. It was like, must be God, because you just want to get out of there so bad. You're like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm a
Yeah.
spirit of Acan. Okay,
Yeah. I feel
because I'd
great
have
about it now.
I'd have the elders laying hands on me, and I'd just confess, and I'd be like, anything to get the hell out of here,
Yeah.
right? And then all of a sudden, I feel this release, and I'd be like,
Yeah.
wow, I feel so free because I get the
Yeah.
hell out of there. But at the time,
Yes.
I thought it was, you get that like relief and
I
release,
know
like get out,
exactly what
or
you're talking about.
yeah, yeah. And then like we go to these like revival type uh meeting type things, and people would be like dancing around, it'd be the music and getting pumped up, kind of like with those what are those called? Those testimonial videos
Yeah.
with the drums and all that. And you're like, woo, woo. And it's like
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
must be like a spiritual experience. And then when I left the cult and I started going to actual like performances that were music, the devil's music,
Yeah.
I came out of there with the same feeling. I'm like,
Yes.
God's not
Wait a
here.
minute. Yeah.
Was that God?
Exactly.
Maybe not. Maybe it was
Mhm.
just the adrenaline, the chemicals in my brain, the feel goods, the all the serotonins and
Yeah.
all the onins.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the relief of being done is really more
Yeah.
what you feel. And I was seeing that on even the higher levels in Scientology. Operating Thetan level 7 could take years. And I remember one guy who finished it locally in St. Paul. And I asked him, so, what is it like now being done? He's just like, I'm just so happy to be done. And I was kind of surprised, like, oh, okay. But
Yeah.
then I had done some of the earlier levels. And so I could relate to that. Like, oh, I get that. You're so relieved to be done. And I don't know if it's when you're getting rid of these body things, because I would have moments where I would have realizations about things. But I think for me, it was really where I would maybe kind of work through, like I thought I was, auditing the body thing, right?
Right. Right.
But let's say if it was something about an upset or something that I was conflicted about and I was able to resolve that, that relief more came from me going, not, it had nothing to do with chariots and cherubs and a big snap and all that.
Right.
It was more like, oh, if that, but it's like almost like for me, I think the body Thetan represented more a part of myself that I could look at
Right. Yep.
separately. So I think that's why
Makes
at
sense.
times you'd feel that relief or that release because you're getting rid of something that you're told is something that in my situation, we weren't told that body thetans are bad. They had but they can influence a person, but really that they're kind of L. Ron Hubbard never used the word victim because there are no
Yeah.
victims in Scientology, he
Right.
says. But they had these things happen to them. And so it was more from a point of empathy, but also after a while, it was just like, oh, how long do I have to do this? And you basically are doing it until you don't get a reaction on the e-meter anymore when you're looking for them.
Oh. Then
Yeah.
then they're gone. And they're
Then
gone.
they're gone until you find out that there's actually more and they were sleeping and you got to pay to get rid of them.
Right. So do you think like things like the TRs where you're kind of controlling your emotions, all the other things that I hate to throw around the word groomed, but it's
Yeah.
what it sounds like to me, that you are prepared for all this. Do you think that shields you against, because with me, literally people were going insane around me.
Yeah.
From just being so fragmented and
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, uh, you're almost like fighting against each other because there's something your body, your mind, and everything is so splintered because you
Yes.
don't know what's the devil, what's blah blah blah, you know. And honestly, having a lot of people had like dissociation problems,
Mm.
or where they would like just go out of it. We didn't believe in outer body experiences. We didn't believe in reincarnation, any like thing like that. But it was just this they called it like spiritual warfare. You
Mm.
were doing warfare in your mind.
Yeah.
And honestly, with all the indoctrination, all the tape, we'd have to sit and listen to hours and hours and hours every night of Marlene droning on of hellfire and brimstone. And because it was a quote prophetic ministry, I had this calling. Everybody had a calling. Some people were minstrels, they did music. Some people were prophetesses. Mine
Did you
mine
get to
was
figure out your own calling or were you handed a calling?
um well, you were prayed over. They love to lay their hands on you
Mm.
and they would anoint you, and I get Wesson oil smeared on my forehead. They would be
Vegetable oil?
yes. Well, it was supposed to be like olive oil, but I guess that was too cheap to
It's
use
cheaper
olive
to
oil.
get West, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Wesson oil, and they'd just be like, okay, the Lord is telling me, and they'd be like,
Mm.
wait for it. You are a helpmeet. And so I was basically a servant. I was a servant. I would, wash toilets with my bare hand, no gloves. I've had so much ammonia water on my hands. We didn't even have newspaper.
Mhm.
We'd use like brown paper. Well, it was like newspaper, but just you know, um, washing spice jars for some reason,
Mhm.
buckets of ammonia. I had buckets of almost boiling hot ammonia water, and we do floor. We'd be wiping,
Yeah.
swabbing the decks, just the busy work and all that. But at night when we listen to those tapes, I would crochet dishcloths, sweaters, blankets, hats, scarves, things
Mhm.
like that, like things because I was a helpmeet. But you know what? I think it preserved my sanity. So now, as a thanks to Marlene, I crochet. Funny shit.
That's
And,
fantastic. That's really
and, uh,
great.
and now this is Rodney, the goldenrod,
I've heard of
and
Rodney.
now he has a husband.
Oh, how
And
fabulous.
Marley would love his rainbow husband because she, is, gay
Homophobic.
people. Yeah, oh yes. Oh yeah, gay people was getting thrown in the lake of fire with me because,
Yeah, you'd be in there with
yeah,
him.
I'd
Wow.
be with her in the lake of fire. So
Do you want
yeah,
to, grab any of the questions?
yes,
Because I
that's
know
what I
they're
was gonna do.
stacking up.
Absolutely. That was next. So Be Kind wants to let you know you're getting close to 6,000 subs.
Oh, nice. Yay. I can't wait to have my Tony on.
Awesome. Helicopter flew in. Hello, loved your interview with Andrew.
Nice. Kelly, I
Natalie.
wanna connect with you. I wanna do something together.
Yeah,
So I was talking to Marilyn earlier. So please,
yeah.
if you shoot me an email and get your contact info, would love to chat.
Yeah, I'll give it to her. I don't know if she's still awake because it's is it
Late
after
there.
midnight?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's way after midnight. She wrote that in the beginning, but I didn't wanna I
Yeah.
didn't wanna
Yeah.
interrupt you. So, um, Mazzo, question, "Hi, I don't have captions yet. Didn't hear what cult Marilyn was from." Yeah, I think I explained that. It was called Door of Hope, but like I said, it was like a petri dish religion. It was a little bit of everything. Whatever Marlene felt like at the moment.
Yeah, yours would
So
be called in Scientology a squirrel group because
oh,
there's the
definitely.
original core group, but then an
Yeah.
offshoot of that, because you can have a squirrel or you can have a bunch of them, and they're a squirrel group. So, like in
Yeah,
Scientology,
yeah,
EST was considered a squirrel group, which are also
right.
considered suppressive groups.
Gotcha. Yeah, and that's weird because Christianity is splintered off so early, so it was like who knows what the true interpretation
Yeah.
of the Bible is, or really what the true translation would be, you know? Question, oh, what would it take to get to you to go to oh, well, oh boy, I don't know if I can leave the holler in a month. We'll see. We'll see. Flojo wants to know, have you lived before this life?
So that's the name of a book in Scientology.
Is
Gosh,
it?
I haven't thought about that book in a million years, Blow Drill. Yeah, Have You Lived Before This Life? I wonder if they're still putting it out. I mean, I remember when they redid the books. Yeah, that'd be a fun one.
Wow.
I finally got my hands on a copy of A History of Man, and I wanna do a whole live stream about it.
Go for it. Oh my god,
Yes.
yeah, I'll tune in for that one, definitely. Oh, another question. Are you a good Thetan or a bad one?
I am obviously a good Thetan.
Obviously,
There's not
obviously.
really Scientology doesn't get in there's
Mm,
not a good or a bad Thetan. It's you're an individual. Either you're behaving in ways that Scientology would consider you to be bad, but you're not identified. L. Ron Hubbard, this is very contradictory, but he said that and taught that man is basically good. Yet in the Sea organization, you're taught that you're a piece of shit.
exactly, you're treated like one.
And
Yeah,
your only
for sure.
value, what you can do, even if you're a child, is your value is in what you can contribute to the group, what you can do to support
Right.
and save the group, not you as an individual.
Yeah, it sounds like a big fat, yeah, narcissistic,
Yeah,
thing,
totally.
and, I mean, God might be a little bit of a narcissist too, just saying. I don't know. That's just my opinion. I won't pick on him, but yeah, we'll see. Oh, don't you think Natalie should come on the cruise? Do you know about the cruise?
No.
Oh my god. So, it's a long story, but there's a friend of ours that has been in this space for as long as I have. Her name's Kit, and she's a travel, advisor, travel agent, and she's organizing an SP cruise, a SPTV, whatever cruise, and several of the creators are thinking of going. I know that Aaron said he's thinking about it, and it's in September. So, I'll give you the information if you're interested.
What's the
It's
cruise
to
line?
so it's Carnival, but it's after the kids go back to school,
Yeah,
and it's, very affordable as far as cruises go, I guess. I've never been on one, but I'm already booked in.
that's fantastic.
It's 8 days to the Caribbean, and yeah, so, there's a group going, and we'll see. I'll give you the information if you wanna check it out.
Yeah, I'd love to get the
So,
details.
yay. Awesome. That'd be so much fun. Oh, Joel, you're also told that if you blow a session that you will be committing a
Ooh,
high
that's true.
crime.
That's right, and a high crime is a suppressive act. So,
Well,
yeah,
then
if you
what
leave
happens?
well, then you get declared a suppressive person.
So if you walk out, if you're like, "I gotta go pee every, like,
Well,
2
no,
hours.
no, no. Your auditor would take a break from the session
Oh,
and
okay.
you'd be able to go to the bathroom. Same thing if you're
Okay.
hungry.
Okay.
And that's one thing in Scientology, when you're getting Scientology auditing, you are eating a lot because for the meter to properly work, you have to have a certain amount of sleep and food and protein in you. And this I think is actually a really interesting point. When people go off to do Scientology services, especially, which is very common, especially when you get to the higher levels, you leave your environment, you go somewhere. The Advanced Organization of Los Angeles is where I went. You are required to get a ton of sleep, so you're well rested. You are required to eat well, so you're eating well. You're taking vitamins, right?
You're
Who's
definitely
not
not
going
in
to
the
feel
Sea Org.
better? Not
Right.
in the Sea Org, but when you're doing these
Oh,
levels and you're doing Scientology auditing, by nature of leaving your environment, I had 3 kids at home. It was a
yeah.
vacation for me to go and do these things, and who wouldn't feel better sleeping, eating, taking supplements, and not having all your day-to-day responsibilities? So that is a lot of why I think people would assign that feeling of feeling better to the fact that you're just getting sleep and you're eating well, rather than what you're actually doing in Scientology.
Hmm. Wow. It's just all so wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. The call. Oh, yes. Part of the institute. Yeah. Sorry. I was clicking that while we were talking because I saw people asking. What's the other next one? Okay. Next question. What did you do with those expensive auditing machines when you left?
I
The
sold
meters.
them.
Did you?
Yeah, I sold them on, was it on eBay or was it through, no, it was through, there are people who practice Scientology outside of the Church of Scientology, and they always need e-meters. And being I was left-handed, that's kind of rare, more rare, I should say. So
Right.
I was connected with somebody who was doing that outside of, and I sold them.
Were they a squirrel or were they actually in Scientology? The people that were learned
No,
bought
they
it.
were practicing Scientology outside of Scientology, so they
They
would
were
have been
squirrel.
considered squirrels, yes.
Okay. Because I was gonna say you can't buy them on eBay if you're a Scientologist. You can't use. You have to buy them from them, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, because they
absolutely.
need the
Yeah,
money. Yes,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. No competition.
Paralyzed to paralyzed Maryland, entertaining Hubbard's insanity is priceless. I know, and guys, it's like I don't want to learn about it just for the sake of learning about it, and I ain't trying to join, not trying to join, but I just think it's fascinating and also helpful in some
Yeah,
weird way
yeah, I
because,
agree.
like I said, it's like we're not people that were raised in cults, that escape cults, like, I guess we're sort of interesting in a way, like, oh, like, but we're not, like, Nora said the other night, we're not like zoo animals, behind glass. It's like, but it is very wild because it's like, yes, we did believe in this. That's all I knew. I was raised in it,
Yeah.
and it does start by making sense too. So, and that was one last question I had for you was, while you're talking, I was thinking about I've heard many, and I know you got to level 4, um, operating level 4, is that what they call
Yeah,
it?
operating
Um,
Thetan level 4.
okay, operating Thetans level 4. I feel like I have to say it like Elron operator or something. Um, People that got even higher, I've heard people say that like they've never really met an OT8 that was like normal. Like, do you think that does like did it affect you in any way? Like talking to the Thetans and all that? Like,
No, I mean,
oh,
you gotta remember, I had a grandpa dad, my mom married my grandpa, like, a lot of stuff had happened.
right. So that was nothing. Right. I get it.
There's a lot of, and being in this organization and what goes on there
Yeah.
were a lot of things that were pretty extreme that went on. So by that point, I mean, frankly, I enjoyed the downtime. Like I was saying, you have to get enough sleep. You
Yeah,
have to
true.
eat well. You have to take vitamins while you're doing this Scientology auditing. So it was, and I was a mom with 3 kids back home. So my
Right.
life was just very go, go, go. And it was
It was
like,
sort of like a
oh,
break.
it
Yeah.
was like a break, and now it's about me and the pesky body Thetans,
Me and
but
the body. At least you don't have to like cook dinner for them, change their
yeah,
diapers. What about
none of
yeah.
that, none of that,
Okay.
none of that, and I
That's
did my
great.
my upper levels in my 30s, and I had been a mom since I was 19. So I had never It really wasn't until 2 years. Oh, I'm just twigging on this. It wasn't until a few years ago where I was really truly an empty nester. And because my partner Tony has children too, who are now just these awesome young men. So I was very involved in helping to raise them as well. So that's what extended my hands-on parenting time to be 30 years of it. Um, and so often I look back and I'm like, it's only been the last couple of years that I've had any type of adult life where I wasn't either in the cult or, like caring for kids. I wasn't really
Right.
like I was married at 17 in the Sea organization, and I had my daughter when I was 19. So, and anybody even outside of Scientology, if you had a kid very young, you know what I'm talking about. You you didn't have that time or those years to be
Right.
crazy or sow your wild oats. You can't do that when you have children, you have responsibilities. And when you're in a cult and you're trying to save the world, you just don't have long
Yeah,
to live for
exactly.
that.
Trying to save that world. Yep. The planet. Oh, how many Jesuses have you met in your lifetime?
I heard of 2. I heard of it's all very it becomes like the rumor mill. You're not supposed to talk to people about your past lives. You're not supposed to talk to people in Scientology about your case, as they call it. But some people still did, but wasn't directly. It was always like, well, there was a gentleman at Flag, and it turns out that he was Jesus, and now he's in Scientology. So Jesus did come back to Scientology.
So so Elron might be back, but he can't tell anybody?
Well, Elron went on to Target too. So
Right.
Scientologists most believe that he's on another planet getting things set up with Scientology.
And
Yeah.
you're not gonna go there if you're a
Nope. The Sea
Scientologist?
organization will go on to Target 2 and
Oh, they will. Oh,
join him in
okay.
pursuit. You have to clear this planet first. The reason why you need a billion years is in the Sea organization is because you have to go to other planets and clear those too. So
That
Elon
doesn't
Musk needs to
sound
like
like
get on
fun.
this whole thing
It
of
really
colonizing Mars because Scientology has some clearing to do.
unless you just keep, like, clearing a planet and eating rice and beans for a billion years and all that stuff, like, it really
Yeah.
doesn't sound like fun.
No, no, they don't tell you that ahead of time though, about
Right,
the
of
rice
course
and
not.
beans and all that. No.
No, of course not, of course not. It's interesting question. How is HIV treated in Scientology since Scientology is anti-medicine?
So Scientology is not anti-medicine. Scientology is against mind-altering medicines. You could have a surgery, and if you need a painkiller, you can take it, but you might have to redo the purification rundown and go do your sauna time. But you wouldn't take
For,
any
like,
psych
ibuprofen?
you can take ibuprofen, yeah.
Okay.
But within 24 hours of doing any type of Scientology training or auditing, you can't take anything like that, and you can't drink alcohol within 24 hours of being on course or doing Scientology auditing. So for many of my years in Scientology, I didn't even drink because you're
Right,
always
because
having
you
to
can't drink. Right, right. Now the body Thetans, where'd they get the drugs from, and how come they didn't have to do the purification rundown?
well, because they don't have bodies. That was
That's
specifically
true.
like it was for your body.
But where did they go to where'd they get the drugs from?
Yeah, that's the thing was like you doing drugs somehow messed them up. But here's the crazy thing.
Oh,
I didn't even do drugs. Like they were really, it was a stretch to come up with stuff for me because I had been in Scientology from the time I was 5. I had never I had never done drugs. I didn't try marijuana till I was like in my 40s. I had
right,
never done that. I had drank alcohol. And because I was raised in Scientology, there wasn't a lot of painkillers and things like that, that you were taking. But if you need a surgery in Scientology and you need medicine for that, you got to be put under. You can have that. Or again, if there's pain, like my mom had kidney issues while we were both in Scientology. I gave her one of my kidneys. So we had to do this whole operation and this whole kidney transplant. Well,
wow,
of course, but I had stopped taking the prescription medicine 3 days after the surgery. In part, large part for me, it was I didn't like the disassociation that it made me feel because it's not something I was used to because I'd never taken anything like that. But
right,
also, you're really encouraged to get off of it as soon as you can, which, is not a bad thing. Um, so you can take those types of medication. My mom needed to be on anti-rejection drugs until she passed away because you have to suppress your immune system so you don't reject
yes,
that organ. And
right,
that's actually what led to her passing away 7 years later. Her kidney worked great. I gave her a good one.
You're a good Thetan.
Well, I made her buy me lunch a lot after that. Every time we'd go out to lunch after I gave her a kidney, I'd reach for the check and go, "Oh, sorry. That spot hurts, where the kidney came out." And then I'd slide the bill over to her. True story. It was totally
You're
like
a
that.
good
My
Thetan.
my mom had a great sense of humor. So you are allowed to do those things. So they're not against medicine. It's mind altering things. Even with the legalization in my THC is legal in my state and in many other states, but I'm pretty sure in
Very
Scientology you're
true.
still not allowed to partake.
Gotcha. Leaving sign. Is this Lewis? Did flows play a part in finding the body things? What are flows?
So flows in
Like
Scientology auditing, it's
2D
like
flow?
yeah,
2D
yeah,
flowing?
exactly. That's one of them. It's a flow. So 2D flow is like being all flirty and stuff.
Gotcha.
So with flows and auditing, you could be dealing with something. You could be dealing with, say, an upset about losing a dog as a child, and I'm upset about that, and it's about me. It's just me. But maybe my upset involved my sister being upset about losing the dog, or my sister talking to my mom. So it was like others to other. Then there's others to me, me to others, and then just me myself. So
Mhm.
did that play a role in finding body things? Me to others, others. I don't think so. I mean, it's been a long time since I did those levels, but I don't recall that specifically that had something to do with it, but I could be wrong, but it's all on the internet now, so you could totally find out.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I think this is your one of your moderators. If
Mhm.
you if you have a question that doesn't get answered, feel free to send Natalie an email at natalie@tonkatalk.com. I wanted to pop that up because we probably won't get to all the questions and comments because I've been trying to keep an eye on the chat and I know I missed some because I want to look at you and I'm trying to look at the chat and I forgot to make my friend Penny or I'm not Penny. I had two moderators, Peggy and Penny, that used to start questions. Peggy was going to start questions. I forgot to make her an admin. So
Ah,
sorry about that, Peggy. So I got a few more starred here. Joel McCoy, I was invited to a talk at COS Mission in 68. Wow.
ooh.
A question, told to buy a book. I asked if this was a church or a bookstore. I was called the PTS. I left and it was BS. And then and now a scam for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a good one.
Way to make
And
friends, Scientology.
yeah,
Just
exactly. Really
totally
called
on brand.
calling them names.
Yeah.
Artsy tartsy keyboard warrior. It all sounds crazy, really. If we just treat others like we want to be treated, then we would all be happy and nothing else would matter. I realize that's a tall order we can try.
That is
There,
the
I
key
love
to
that. I
happiness
love
right
that.
there.
Yeah. Yeah. And you don't have to pay for
Exactly.
it. Kindness is free. So this was great. I'm sorry if we didn't get to your question, guys. I'm kind of scanning real quick to see if there's anything that pops up, but great to see you all. And yeah, I feel like we kind of scratched the surface, but it was awesome talking to you. And did you have any last words, any last thoughts you wanted to
Yeah, I
bring
just
up?
appreciate it that if you're not only already subscribed to my channel, it's at Scientology Life After a Cult. I would love it if you did and chime in. I love hearing about what people think about Scientology, especially people who've never been in. It's such an interesting perspective. And I don't know about you, Marilyn. Well, I think you could probably relate because hearing these Scientology stories has helped you. You saw
Absolutely.
Leah Remini's show and realized that you were in a cult. When I
Mhm.
hear that different point of view about certain things in Scientology, it just helps me kind of see it from a different angle. And I feel that the more angles I can see it from, the more I can go, oh, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely that was a cult. But there are so many things that happen that I find myself still not recognizing it for what it was. And that's something that I continue to work through, which is why I love hearing what people think about it. And I so appreciate the support from my channel. Like I said, I'm new to the SBTV community, but I really appreciate people
Yeah.
showing
So
their
good to
support.
it was great to meet you. And yes, we can I'm sure people can relate so many different levels. We talk about that in my channel a lot. I have a very kind of uh morning musings I call it, and we just kind of chat about things. I usually have a topic, but we talk about things that we can relate to within this, cult kind of space, but abusive relationships, workplaces, all different experiences, and we talk about different concepts. So, and my channel is Coffee Cults and Crafts if anybody is interested in checking it out. And thanks so much. This has been great. And
Yeah, thank you.
we'll hopefully do this again. Someone's yelling, do it again. So I'd
Oh
love
yeah,
to
we will.
chat again. And thank you so much. And we'll see everybody later. Thanks a lot. Have a great night.